mondegreen is the term given to a misunderstood song lyric. Like, there's a bathroom on the right. Or this one. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. As opposed to Kiss the Sky. Jimi Hendrix recorded Purple Haze on his second LP, Are You Experienced? And it was said that he actually perpetuated the mondegreen by performing it as Kiss This Guy on stage a few times. The song was written in response to a dream in which he was dreaming that he was underneath the ocean looking up at the sky. He denies any drug references to the song and says it's just another love song. Here's Jimi Hendrix, one of the great riffs of all time. Purple Haze. All right, just before we get to that amazing intro for Purple Haze, let's talk about the 3 chords that you're going to need for the verses in this song. And the first chord is an E dominant 7th sharp 9. And this is often referred to as the Jimi Hendrix chord. We've used it in other lessons. Jesus is Just Alright comes to mind right off the top of my head. And it's a great chord, and it's fingered like this. Open E string. Second finger is on the 7th fret of the 5th string. First finger is on the 6th fret of the 4th string. Third finger is on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. And fourth finger, pinky finger, is on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. Strum it, especially with overdrive on. That's the Jimi Hendrix chord. An E dominant 7 sharp 9. Okay, and the other 2 chords you need for the chorus. Now a lot of chord charts and a lot of videos are showing just either a G, power G, G5 power chord and A5 power chord. I'm going to suggest that you use a G7. And it's just a little bit of a different sound there. And what it also does, when I get to the A7, it allows me to do that little trill that Hendrix featured in this song. That thing. And because my pinky's available. So it's those 3 chords. Okay, and so just to show you again what that G7 or the G dominant 7 and then the A7 chord look like, it's just a basic bar G chord and a bar A chord, and all I'm going to do is lift the pinky off like that. And that's the sound I get. Okay, so again the 3 chords. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about this more when we get to the chorus. This particular chord, the A7 chord here, allows you to play that little, which Hendrix featured in this song. All right, those are the 3 chords you need. Let's get on to that intro. Okay, the intro begins with this discordant picking between the guitar and the bass. The bass is playing kind of the normal part here, which would be octave E's. The bass is playing. And Jimi, the guitar player, is playing. And if you put those 2 together, it sounds very, very cool and slightly discordant. So let's focus on what the guitar player is playing, because that's what we're here for. So we're going to play, start with our first finger on the 6th fret of the low E string, and the octave to that is our pinky is going to cover the 8th fret on the 4th string. You can use your 3rd finger if you like. I just find that in my hand works a little easier and more comfortably using 1st finger and pinky finger. And those are all downstrokes with the pick, and I play through that 4 times. And then we get into this. And that's that's the first little run and riff. So sliding up with my third finger to the 9th fret of the 4th string, and then with my first finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. And I want to remind you that through all this playing, vibrating the string is going to make all of this sound better. Okay, the 3rd note is with my 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and I've got to bend that up. Just that much. And of course, bends are always tricky because there's just a right amount and a wrong amount, and you're trying for the optimal bend here. And that's about it right there. And then the last note in that little 4-note sequence is the 7th fret of the 4th string with my first finger. So it's... And you can practice that one over and over again because you're going to have to play through it once and then again because this whole opening section repeats. Now we move down with our first finger's on the 7th fret, we move it down to the 4th string 5th fret, and the next 2 notes are 5th fret and open D string, and then open low E, so it's 5th fret, open D, open E, and then it's a hammer up from 5 to 7 on the A string. So that little section again. Put those 2 pieces together. Okay, so you want to practice that many times. The second half of the intro begins here. So here we are with our 3rd finger sliding up to the 7th fret of the 5th string. So it's 7, 5, 7, 7, 5 and 7 on string 4. And then we bend that a full bend and finish on the 5th fret of 4. Okay, from there we go to... So it's just, we're already on 5 of 4 of the 4th string. Again, it's 5 and open D like we did before. And this time, instead of going, we go. And we bend that G just a little bit. That's the 3rd fret, low E string. Open E and then... So again, just to repeat that. One more time. And then the last phrase, I start the same way. I go to slide up to 7. But this time I end up on the 7th fret of the 4th string instead of the 5th fret. So I do the bend right away. Like that. So there's that 5th fret and open again. And this time I come out. Slide all the way up to 9 on the 4th string. So 1 hit on 9 and then 2 on 7 of the 3rd string and finish up on 9 of the 3rd string. So that whole second half of the intro again, kind of slow-mo. All right, let's do a slowed down playthrough of the entire intro. introduced the chords earlier in the lesson, I referred to this section as the chorus section. We'll get back, we'll talk more later when we get to the chorus. And of course I should have been saying verse there because the purple haze in my brain is the verse. And that's where we use these three chords that I described earlier. So let's talk about the strumming pattern for these three chords during the verse. Like so. So here's the strumming pattern. Take a good close look at the right hand here. And that's a couple of chops down on that open E string, which is muted by the palm of my right hand. There's one muted slap in there. There. Okay, for these chords. So what I'm doing there is it's just chop, chop, strum. That's that little trill he puts in. And what I'm doing there is just hammering my pinky on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. It's kind of like that. I'm playing that on the 2nd and 3rd strings, hammering again on and off of the 7th fret of the 2nd string. So it becomes 7, 5, and then 6. Of course, we don't emphasize it cleanly like that. It's not three distinct notes. It's just kind of a trill that's lost in the distortion and the overdrive he's using, and kind of lost in the strumming pattern as well. So, like so. So let's do a playthrough of the verse with vocals. All right, in playing through this progression here, we're going to play through it 5 times, because coming out of the intro to the song, it plays through the progression twice, and then the vocal starts, and it plays through 3 more times, and then stops dead for that famous line. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. Just stops dead. You're in position for that E dominant 7 sharp 9 anyway, so you're just at an open E. You're actually at an octave there, so you're at... You can just hammer on those 2 notes there, and then that gives you the intro into that line. Okay, so 5 times through altogether, 3 with vocals. Here we go. Haze in my brain. Lately things don't seem the same. Acting funny, but I don't know why. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. All right, next we have that. A very catchy little transition piece that takes us into the next section of chording in the next verse. And what this is really 3 octave notes. What we're playing here is an F sharp, and then the octave to that, and this is that pinky. This is the same thing we did when we did that, except this time our first finger is on the 9th fret of the 5th string, and our pinky's on the 11th fret of the 3rd string, and those are both F sharp notes. Okay, we're going to play those 2 notes together, and then we're going to drop down and play the E on the 5th string and the 3rd string, and then we're going to drop down 2 more frets and play the D on the 5th string and the 3rd string. And in between, and here's the trick of this, in between you take that first finger, and instead of, you know, you were always taught you want to play a clean note, you really arch your fingers and get that note nice and clean. But in this case, you want your finger to drag across. The first finger plays that note, but then it also mutes. It just sits on top of the fourth string. So the fourth string is muted. So that when you pick down on the three strings, 5, 4, and 3, you're going to hear 5 and 3 and not 4. What you get is you get a very cool 3-octave note progression. And that's the first part of this little transition. It's fairly quick, so you kind of got to practice it a little bit. First you got to find it quickly, and then you have to practice it. Okay, the last part of it is, and that's just, again, third finger on the 9th fret of the 4th string up to the 7th fret of the 3rd string with our first finger. We've done this before. And then we're going to take our second finger and bend up on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. We do that twice. So this becomes, and then right back into it. Back into the next verse section. All right, let's play through that one more time, nice and slowly. And I did forget to mention to slide up to that first note with your third finger on the 9th fret of the 4th string. You won't slide up to that, and I forgot to mention that. Like so. Okay, this is just a section of the song I'm going to touch on. After the second time we play through that little sequence, instead of going back to the chord progression, instead of going back to it goes into the psychedelic sequence of the song, which we're not going to do completely here. But I will tell you that the bass line and the guitar playing Jimi Hendrix plays here is fairly, as I said, it's kind of a psychedelic, free-form kind of stuff that he was so famous for. But it follows this bass line. So it comes out of... Okay, so it goes from A to B to D and then to E and drops down to the kind of an octave thing, and then F sharp, D, E, F sharp, D. And all of the guitar playing that takes place there follows that 3-chord progression until it gets back into the intro section again. All right, let's do one final playthrough that actually puts a verse together with that little connecting piece. And so we'll do the second verse. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Purple haze all around. Don't know if I'm coming up or down. Am I happy or in misery? Whatever it is, that girl put a spell on me.
All right, fine-tuning for Purple Haze. Well, here are a couple things we focused on in this lesson. One are the octave notes, both at the beginning and then later on when we ended up playing this. We also had that little technique of muting a middle string in a 3-string sequence so that we just get the first string and the third string in the sequence, which is a very cool little technique. Also, to remind you on bends, that bends are important to get them to the right spot. Doesn't sound right. It has to be to the right spot and not too far either. Well, that won't sound good either. So bending, just work on your bends a little bit so they're just... I had a guitar player tell me once he wasn't going to use bends very often anymore because it was too difficult for him to get it just right every time. He thought he'd stop focusing on using bends, but I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is to work on them and get them right. One of the things I wanted to mention is Hendrix's tendency to put a lot of like slides down in. He's got his guitar really overdriven, and so all these things are kind of moany and groany. And if you listen to the song, he does a lot of that with his voice as well. It was intended to be very sensual music, and so one of the things he does is he does a lot of that sliding down, like here. Puts it in there, that sort of thing. Listen to it, and wherever you feel comfortable or wherever you hear it in the song, you can do some of that kind of sliding and groaning. And then finally, add some wiggle to everything you play in Purple Haze, and it will sound better. Jimi Hendrix, An Underwater Dream, Purple Haze. We'll see you next time on Song Mentor.